breaking work, young servicemen, Jewish evacuees, and how, amid the fear and turmoil of war, they had each fallen in love. Chapter 1. Bess was falling through the air in the pitch of night. The earth was getting nearer, beckoning with gnarled fingers. Before she hit the ground, she heard a short grinding noise, followed by a sharp clang. Then the familiar chimes of the library's long-case clock struck the quarter hour. Bess opened her eyes, relieved to be out of the terrifying world of dreams. Bess put down the book she'd been reading before falling asleep, climbed onto the window seat, and looked out of the window. She traced the familiar snow-covered hills, the backdrop to Foxden Hall, across the window pane with her finger. As a flurry of snowflakes, the last of the afternoon's fall, floated out of the blue-black sky to the courtyard below. That morning, the courtyard, a cobbled quadrangle with stables on one side and the entrance to the servants' quarters on the other, had been ankle-deep in snow, which Bess had crunched through purposefully, taking care to leave her footprints clearly defined. During the day, caterers, wine merchants and musicians, arriving in a variety of vehicles to prepare for Foxden's New Year's Eve party, had trampled the crisp white snow into dirty brown slush. Now even that was gone, and the wet cobblestones glistened beneath the headlights of chauffeur-driven motor cars. "Oh, no!" Bess gasped. She stumbled from the seat and ran to the window overlooking the drive. A convoy of a dozen motor cars was heading towards the hall. She had meant to leave before any of Lord and Lady Foxden's guests arrived. Apart from anything else, she had promised her mother she'd be home by 6:30 to sit down to a family supper at 7. At that moment, the clock began to chime again. The hour was 7. She was late. Her mother would be furious. Quickly, Bess put back the books she had been reading, each in its original place on the tall mahogany bookcases that lined the library walls. Then, after replacing the guard in front of what was left of the fire, she put on her coat, hat and gloves and threw her satchel over her shoulder. Satisfied that she had left the library as she found it, she switched off the reading lamp and made her way to a small panelled door at the back of the room, which would take her down a narrow flight of stairs and into the servants' hall. She lifted the latch, but the door didn't budge. She tried again, and this time lent her shoulder to it, but the door held fast. Bess had no choice now but to leave the hall by the front door, and, she hoped, without anyone seeing her. Taking off her hat and gloves and stuffing them into the pocket of her coat in an attempt to look less conspicuous, she made her way to the library's main entrance. Reaching for the handle, she pulled open the heavy oak-panelled door and silently stepped out onto the first-floor gallery. She was alone. She wondered for how long. Below, she could hear the orchestra and the chatter of people meeting and greeting each other, but there was no one in sight. Quietly, she closed the library door, tiptoed to the edge of the balcony, and looked over the banister. Beneath her, shards of shimmering light, reflections from the huge mirror ball that hung from the ceiling of Foxden's elegant ballroom, darted through the open door, lighting up a giant Christmas tree. With its brightly coloured Victorian characters and shiny baubles, the magnificent fir was the centrepiece of Foxden's marble hall. To her right, a party of latecomers arrived. A footman was relieving them of their coats when one, and then another, looked up. Bess ducked. She felt sure they'd seen her. To her relief, they were admiring Foxden's seasonal decor and carried on doing so all the way to the ballroom. Bess was angry with herself for not having the courage to simply walk down the main staircase. For 10 years, since she had passed the 11+ and won the Foxden Scholarship to attend Loworth Grammar School, Lord Foxden had allowed her to use the library. When he learned she was about to take her teaching certificate, he had sent a message with her father, who was his head groom, inviting Bess to use the library during the Christmas holiday. In his words, she was to come and go as she pleased. Even so, Bess felt sure that tonight Lord Foxden would have preferred her to go, as she had come, via the servants' stairs. Crouching, Bess inched her way along the balcony to the top of the stairs and peered through the spindles of the banister. This time there was no one in the hall, not even a footman.